Welcome to the Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I'm Jocelyn Bamford, and every week we introduce a new entrepreneur to tell their stories, unpack their challenges of keeping jobs in Canada, and discuss potential solutions for job growth and prosperity. Have you ever noticed that the media and some political parties love to paint business owners as the bad guy? During the last few years of leading the Coalition of Concerned Manufacturers and Businesses of Canada, I've had the pleasure of getting to know many entrepreneurs, and I've heard stories of triumph and inspiration. One such entrepreneur is joining me today. Please welcome to the program Mark Joseph of Kisco Foods. Kisco and Mr. Freezy are Canadian icons. If you've had a Freezy, you're having a Kisco product. I've enjoyed frozen treats for many years, and so have my kids. So welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Jocelyn. A pleasure to be here with you today.
And with Mark today is Ramesh Prasad, who's Kisco procurement manager and operations manager. And we're going to talk with Ramesh in a little bit. And you both have amazing stories, but let's first start with Mark. Now, I've heard some amazing stories about the rise of companies, Mark, but yours has always inspired me. So why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about the story of Kisco?
Thanks, Jocelyn. Now, I mean, you make it sound like absolutely incredible, but it is a long story, but I have to keep it brief. Born in Jamaica, raised in Jamaica in my early years, my father was a true entrepreneur. He was the youngest of 7 kids. His father moved from Lebanon as a young man into the inner part of Jamaica and started out with absolutely nothing, up and down the streets, peddling material, then eventually had a donkey, then eventually opened a supermarket that sold everything from dry goods to food, everything you could want. My dad branched out on his own as the youngest of the kids after his dad died, tried many different businesses, but eventually landed on Kisco and was the first to introduce it on the island. An incredible story because he was in the snow cone business, the first on the island with vans driving around, but then the drivers figured out how to steal from him. And so that went on there. He was on a trip to Panama, and he was in Colombia, and he's on one of what we describe in Jamaica as one of those country buses. The people are in there, the chickens are in there, everything. And then he stops at a railway crossing, and there's this kid selling these things in a plastic tube, and he goes, that's it, that's it. He buys everything, he finds out where it's made, he goes home, and Mom and himself start in their kitchen, just filling preformed tubes. Eventually he gets his first automated machine. He works nonstop. There were many nights he didn't even come home, and built a successful business in Jamaica. And then in the mid-70s, our families left, as did many Jamaicans, due to the political situation there in the island. He started over in Canada because basically he thought, let me go look for a job. When he went, he heard the same thing that immigrants still hear to this day, which is, come back when you have Canadian experience. And the obvious question was, how do I get Canadian experience if no one hires me? And because of that experience, it put a real soft spot in his heart to understand what others were going through. So over our 44 years of business, we've literally hired thousands of people who it's their first time or second time job. We started out with the Kisco brand name because we figured there were some Jamaicans here who would recognize the name. And then fast forward, I mean, we had major competition. The Mr. Freeze brand was a competitor owned by Leaf Confections at the time, who had bubble gums and other candy. And then they got bought out by Hershey's, who was a few billion times our size. But through product innovation and differentiating ourselves, we've been able to survive. And around 15 or 16 years ago, we purchased the Mr. Freeze brand from Hershey's and have that as well as many other licensed brands. But really and truly, the key for us has been, it's been a struggle. It's been tough. And many times we didn't know if we would make it. But God has been very faithful in our business. And we've had incredible staff who have been with us for many years.
Now tell me how many people that Kisco employs today, including, I know that you get a big surge in the summer, so how many people do you have today?
Yeah, so we're typically about 100, just over 100 people full-time, and then we hire just around 100 seasonal staff. which typically start at this time of year or January and run till about the end of June. The challenge, as many of us are facing, is you cannot find people to work.
This is Canadian Innovators, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Canadian Innovators. I'm Jocelyn Bamford. Joining me today is two folks from Kisco Products, Mark Joseph, who's the president, and now I'm going to bring in one of his employees that has an amazing story. Mark told me, Ramesh, that you immigrated to Canada from Guyana with a background in accounting and finance, and you got a job at Kisco as a seasonal worker, became a machine operator, and then the parts room manager, all the same time while you were raising a family and going to school. So we'd love to hear from you how you found your way to Canada and how you found your way to Kisco, because we want to hear all about your journey. Ramesh?
Okay, thank you for having me here today. I came to Canada on a plane, just trying to be funny there. I came to Canada over 15 years ago, having studied accounting and work in the accounting industry back home. I hope to further develop that here in Canada. As most of us know, Canadian experience is required to get a job. But if you just immigrated and don't get the opportunity, how can you get the experience? This forced me into taking a general labor job through a temp agency. I joined Kisco as a packer on the line and quickly moved on to being a machine operator, as you mentioned there. At that point, I started back studying professional accounting by joining CGA, which is now CPA, Certified Professional Accountants. As I continue working and studying, Kisco presented an opportunity for me to manage a parts department, which was a success. I completed a commerce degree at Laurentian University. And yes, while working, being enrolled in CPA, and fulfill all my duties in having a beautiful wife and 3 lovely kids, my family. As my hard work and studies continue, Kisco presented yet another opportunity for me to become the operations and procurement manager, which is my present position. My success is due to the support received from my family and the Kisco family.
Well, thanks, Ramesh. That is a great story. And you know, it really exemplifies the Canadian dream. So I wanted to explore a little bit about what you like working at Kisco. And then I want to talk a little bit about what you like about being here in Canada. So let's start with Kisco. Tell us about your experience at Kisco and what you like about working there.
Sure. There are many things to love about working at Kisco. The great culture and family atmosphere throughout the organization stands out. You know, it feels like home away from home. The opportunities that Kisco offers for hard work and dedication is absolutely amazing. The products Kisco produces brings joy to consumers, and I'm happy to be able to contribute towards positively impacting people through our products. Overall, it's just great to be part of the Kisco family.
So that's great. It is a great company. It's got a great product. Now, tell us about Canada. What made you come to Canada, and what do you like best about being here in Canada?
Yes, Canada is a safe and beautiful country for me to raise my family, and I'm just proud being a Canadian. It's absolutely wonderful here.
Well, we're happy to have you as part of the Canadian family. Just want to talk about your kids for a bit. You mentioned your beautiful family. What are they up to, and what are they going to be doing? And will they be part of Kisco, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I have 3 kids, and they're probably going to be part of Kisco. You never know. They have other things that they're studying. They're all 3 of them are in school. They're under 10. So yes, quite a bit more work to do there, but definitely they are looking forward to the studies and the opportunities that is being presented in Canada here for them.
So talk to me about, how did you find the Canadian people? Did you find them welcoming? Do you like being part of the Canadian fabric? What was the best thing for you about coming to Canada?
the one word that stands out is polite. Canadians are very polite, and for me, the overall reason to come here is to personally develop myself. And there's a lot of opportunities out here that you can develop yourself, right? So overall, it's just beautiful to be among all of the Canadians.
Well, thank you, Ramesh. That is an inspiring story. And as I say, that's the kind of story that really makes up the fabric of this great country that we live in. So we appreciate you coming on. In a moment, we're going to go to break, and we're going to be back to hear more about Kisco with Mark Joseph, president of Kisco, and thanks to Ramesh. Welcome back to Canadian Innovators. My guest today is Mark Joseph of Kisco Products. One of the things that many Canadians don't realize is how many small business and medium-sized business are so integrated in the community. And I know Kisco has some amazing philanthropic efforts that I want him to tell us about. So when I first met Mark, we were at a business meeting, and I was booking a subsequent business meeting, and he said he was going off to Jamaica. And I said, oh, vacation? And he said, no, he was going to do a build for charity. So a lot of entrepreneurs don't tell people about their philanthropic efforts. You basically have to just pull it out of him. So in this segment, I'm just going to pull all this out of you, Mark, because it's a great story. And I'm sure the viewers want to hear about some of your philanthropic efforts.
Sure, Jocelyn. No, thank you. It's really, my parents, it really goes back to my parents right from the very start, when they had nothing as a young couple, and when they had very little running a business, and you know what it's like to be a business owner, they still always gave. They always found a way to give. And that has been entrenched in our DNA, myself and my brothers that are involved with the business. And I think it really goes back to what our purpose is. And I was reminded of that in 2019 when I was a little disappointed with the financial year we'd had. And I was just thinking, I felt God, I was like, God, I don't know, as I go into this meeting with my senior team tomorrow, what I'm going to say. I can't say, boy, you guys are awful, because that wasn't true. And I just felt prompted, like, what is your purpose? And it was, well, my purpose and our business's purpose is to impact people's lives. It's to impact their lives. We impact the lives of our staff, who are able to provide for their families, feed them, all the things. We impact our retailers, who are able to provide a great tasting product and so forth. We impact the consumer, who has incredible memories of eating the product and all the various things. And then we impact the charities as well that we support. And so one of the things that we do is we do give back just from a biblical principle. We tithe back 10% from our business. And so we've been involved in a number of things, between Salvation Army, Young Street Mission that we support. We support charities in Uganda, Namibia in Africa, and of course in our original homeland of Jamaica. So I'm on the board of Helping Hands Jamaica. We raise money to build schools for kids ages 2 to 5. And we've built over 24 schools. But one of the things that was amazing was we, as a family and a business, we've done 2 school trips where we've built the schools. The first year we took some of our staff who were of Jamaican heritage, and we wanted them to be able to give back in a tangible way. We didn't take their vacation time, any of those things. It was come on down and had a great time. And it was a very powerful time as well, too. One of our staff members, she's from Jamaica, she said, we were staying at a nice hotel. She says, I've never stayed at a resort before. And just, it just really moved me. And but the impact was incredible. We weren't doing it to be able to get something back from our staff, but to be able to pour into their lives by them giving back to the communities. And the impact was incredible. I mean, it moved all of them, because the first 2 days we're working like half days, really. There's a real construction team there. And on the third day, there's an opening. And then from there, they bring the kids in, and they're either singing or poetry, whatever it may be, and the principal and the community, the families there. Amazing. Another one that we're involved in is just an addiction center in Jamaica and in Canada called Teen Challenge that we give to. So yeah, those are some of the things. And we just feel that we know we're blessed. It doesn't matter how much we have. Everyone here in Canada, we have so much more than many do. So we need to be able to give back.
And it's amazing that you give back and your staff gives back. How was the response from your staff when you kind of told them about this project they were going to do? Did people sign up right away? Did you have to turn some of your staff away?
Yeah, we were selective as who we invited just because of the number that we could take and everything. And it was an incredible experience, so much so that the second trip that we did, one of the ladies, the same one who hadn't stayed at a resort before, said, Mark, I'll pay a portion of it if I have to. I have to go back. This meant so much to me. And she ended up coming back on the trip.
That's amazing. It's such a great story. Now, we're going to go to break shortly. And what I want to hear about is the challenges that you've had. And for each guest that I have on the program, I say, pretend you're the Prime Minister or the Premier and tell me what you're going to do to make it better. So we're going to be right back on Canadian Innovators to hear what Mark would do to make things better. And we're back on Canadian Innovators. I'm here with Mark Joseph, president of Kisco Products. Before we went to the break, Mark, I had asked you what your pain points, what your challenges were. So I really want to unpack a little bit about that. We don't have a lot of time, but I know we've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right into it.
Well, Jocelyn, we would need more than the time that we have. But really, earlier on, you just addressed the fact that government often paints the picture that businesses are evil. We had that with the former Liberal government provincially, and we have that federally at this point in time. And it's tough, really tough. And because they have no idea, most of them have never worked in a business. They have no idea when, entrepreneurs can't draw salary, when the bank has everything you own except for your kids, and sometimes you wish they take them. And so it's really, really difficult. But there are many things. I wish, from a communication standpoint, number one, that there could be a little more transparency. So, for example, when you have our Prime Minister and Finance Minister, who I guess it makes sense has no actual finance background, and you have the BOC talking about inflation being just a blip, then just transitory. But those of us in business know this is not just a blip, and it's not just transitory, and it's not just 4%. We've seen the impact on the raw material costs, as well as the short supply, all the supply chain issues that are in place. The other thing I think is just, once again, it comes down to what you're mandating. When it comes to the discrimination that's taking place on people who have chosen, for whatever reason, not to be vaccinated. And let me just state that I am vaccinated. And we have rolled it out. York Region was great in rolling out with our facility. But when you now start to say that those people don't have a right to work and you're going to squeeze them out of their jobs, when we know certain things is that you still can catch it, you can still pass it along if you're vaccinated. So it's all the other protocols that we follow within the business that are essential. And we do rapid testing with all our staff, not just staff who are unvaccinated. So there are many things that are pain points. You've got from a federal standpoint because of, that all plastics are evil. Well, we found out that during COVID, maybe plastic isn't a bad thing and we do need it. And so it's this thing where the ideological train that they tend to follow versus really seeing how do we get the economy going? How do we provide opportunities? How do we bring in more workers for our economy to drive the economy and really focus on that versus all the other things that really aren't necessary?
So you make a good point. I mean, try to put a freezy in something that's not plastic is probably not going to be an easy endeavor. But I want to get to, if you're the Prime Minister or the Premier, what's the one or two things that you're going to do to make things better and make it open for business in Canada?
Well, I must say, I think our Premier in Ontario had a tough go being hit with COVID because he was doing a lot of things, trying to get rid of a lot of red tape and things. So he has made things because he actually has worked with the business community and listened, and actually listened. And so that's been great, especially as well for the agri sector as well, to which I'm involved in. It's a tough job. It's a tough job. But what I would do is I would be focusing on the things that are important. I'd surround myself with people who are much smarter than I am versus just people I owe favors to or people that are my friends. And that's what we've seen happen federally. You know, the whole consulting piece, they've spent, I can't remember the figures, like double what was previously spent or triple on consultants coming in because they have people in portfolios who have no idea what they're doing.
Absolutely. And I think those are great points. And we should have you as a prime minister or premier. But I want to talk about, before we end the segment, I want to talk about the labor shortage. Tell me about your challenges, because I'm hearing that from absolutely every
sector. We've seen restaurants not being able to open or just partially, but every sector is being hampered. There is a problem.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we have a lot that we have to unpack, so we're going to have Mark back because we just scratched the surface. Small and medium-sized companies are the lifeblood of the economy. 92% of all Canadian businesses are 100 people and below. And having a strategy to grow and maintain these jobs in Canada is paramount. A strategy to truly be open for business is what's needed at all levels of government. Without a vibrant small and medium-sized business segment, there won't be jobs, there won't be money for taxes and bridges, roads, schools, and hospitals. So let's demand a strategy to bring businesses back to Canada and keep jobs here. I'm Jocelyn Bamford, and thank you for joining Canadian Innovators, and we'll see you next time.